peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
A very good morning to you and thank you for joining us. It is 11 a.m. here in Nairobi, Kenya, or East African time. I trust that your day has started off well. Thank you for joining us for our second show today. We had an earlier show where we were looking at the news making headlines across Kenya, and now we're still staying with that because this is the conversation that every Kenya is wants to hear right now. And yesterday we looked at part of BBI, and just a recap of what we were able to cover yesterday here. We looked at the national ethos, responsibility and rights, as well as ethnic antagonism and competition, as it has been, outlined in the BBI draft that was made fileable by the government last week. And so, if you can get your hand on it, then that will be nice. So today we're going to look at the third issue, and I think the fourth, and tomorrow we shall look at maybe inclusivity. So today we are going to look at the answer to Kenya's divisive elections, and that is something that has been captured here in the BBI under divisive elections. And so my name is Miriam Mugutu, in case you don't know, and to help us advance this conversation, I'm joined by Professor Jared Onyari. Professor, very good morning.
Good morning, Miriam, Daniel, and our viewers from wherever they are.
All right, thank you so much. And also we are joined with Daniel Wesonga, our correspondent. Daniel, good morning.
Yes, very good morning, Miriam Ogutu at our headquarters there in Nairobi. Professor Jared Onyaro on the panel, and our viewers here in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the globe who are watching us this morning, wherever they are.
Very well, and I'm sure Jevan Karanja from Nanyuki shall be joining us momentarily. So let's just get into it. BBI, the answer to Kenya's divisive elections, and this is something particularly that BBI really wanted to address our political process, our electoral system that seems to be quite flawed, that every 5 years, I guess, gets this country into a problem and plunges us into a lot of issues there. And as we were looking early in the morning about the ICC case, this is something that came about from the divisive elections that we usually have in this country every 5 years. So now, according to the BBI report, this is the second draft. It says, in the task force report, it was noted that we have forged up politics that is contest of us versus them, and we have chosen our us in quotes and them in quotes on an ethnic basis, especially in competing for the presidency. Lack of inclusivity is the leading contributor to divisive and conflicting causing elections. Kenyans associate the winner take all system with a divisive elections and want an end to it. A majority of Kenyans supported the adoption of a hybrid system, the presidential and the parliamentary system. And they supported the BBI report's recommendation for an inclusive national executive compromising a president, a deputy president, prime minister, and 2 deputy prime ministers. So they're saying the first step for us to solve this issue of to address the issue of divisive elections is to expand the executive, and so that when we expand the executive after the next elections, then the country will be very intentional as to who will be the prime minister and as to who will be the 2 vice prime ministers there, so that Kenyans feel included in this being part of the country. Even after elections, they feel even if you didn't vote for the president, but still we'll feel as though our voice is being represented because we see somebody that is there representing our voice. But let's just start with those few lines that I just read there. Professor, the politics of us versus them that we've been seeing playing out in this country, and now we see another version of us versus them, and how dangerous this is when it comes to the unity and the division that it has created in this country.
Thank you, Miriam, for that question. And what you need to understand on divisive elections, what it means that the people sees the presidency as something which is going to give them resources. That's how they look at our man is there, so it means that they will be dishing resources to them. And say for the new constitution of 2010, whereby the president was not allowed to be dishing projects around the roadsides. Even this one, people are coming from that mentality. Miriam, wherever you see the president coming to your region, you will see them telling, oh, we don't have water, we don't have roads, we don't have electricity, we want this and that. These are the people come to realize that, Miriam, that the budget is being done by the members of parliament, and all the projects which the government needs to undertake are done in parliament, in the National Assembly, and by people's persuasion. Be it as it may, Miriam, people feel that once that their man is not there for the president, that they have lost. So that's why you can see us ganging versus them, so that they can be able to capture power. And Miriam, that is not good for the country. It is a recipe for chaos. So the only thing which you need to do, Miriam, is to accommodate everyone. And Miriam, whenever you are seated on the dining table, it doesn't matter how far you are seated, but you are on the dining table, Miriam. Even if people serve the meal and then the meal get finished, and then they will say so and so has not gotten, and you can see each one will give you some pieces, and then Miriam, then you will have something to eat. What am I trying to say? Expanding this, Kenyans will feel that they are part of Kenya. And I want to assume that when we go for the referendum and the BBI goes through, Miriam, that the next government must have the face of Kenya. Even in the top 5 positions, Miriam, to have the face of Kenya. One may be from Western, from Coast, Central, Rift Valley, Northeastern, and that's how people will be inclusive, Miriam, so that people don't see the winner take it all. That you have taken now, you can be able to decide dissing projects to people, opportunities to people, appointments to people, as if you are a doctor dissing a pharmacist, dissing doses of medicine to people. So Miriam, this is a good thing.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor. So, Daniel, we know our politics have been around, us versus them, and the winner takes it all. And as I said there earlier, the us versus them has now taken a completely different twist. And so we've seen how this has played into, creating a very divisive country, even as you speak right now. And so BBI is seeking to address this issue.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And of course, yesterday we had a discussion about giving ourselves an identity. And the BBI, when you read it quite extensively, it talks about Kenyans identifying themselves not on the basis of their tribe, religious affiliation, or maybe a political mobilization. So these ones gives Kenyans a very, very clear roadmap on what the BBI wants to do to make sure that we get the question of ethnicity up our negotiation table. And as we engage as Kenyans, we engage on the basis of a people united for a common purpose. And when you look, what the BBI talks about the inclusivity is that it wants to make every Kenyan voter, the vote that you cast at the ballot, to carry equal rights in terms of representation, so that whenever you cast your ballot and go home after voting, you are sure that in one way or another, your vote is going to count, and perhaps you'll feel represented in every section of leadership. And that is what we want as Kenyans. We don't have to have we don't need to have a kind of scenario like the incumbent constitutional provision, where when one particular candidate fails to clinch the presidency, he's left to go into the galleons of the opposition, which have no office, where they cannot be able to advance the agenda of the people they represent in very, very structured manner. So I feel like The BBI gives people a voice through the creation of the office of the official opposition, and also the expanded executive, which creates the position of prime minister and the two deputies. So to me, I feel like it's a very good way going forward, and it will ensure that we are all included in the leadership of the day. And also it talks about the marginalized groups in this country. Those are the young people, the women through the two-thirds gender rule, and also the people living in arid and semi-arid lands. And the BBI has gone further to talk also about people who are living in informal settlements, people who are living below $1, who are surviving below $1 a day, as being part of the people who are marginalized. So by ensuring that the issues surrounding these kind of individuals are sorted quite outrightly and clearly, the BBI, we ensure that we bring each and every member of our society on the leadership table, and we ensure that they benefit directly from the prosperity and the gains, economic gains of this country.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. And also on that, still on the first paragraph of the divisive elections, I'm reading from the BBI, the abridged report. That is the shortened version of the BBI report that was presented to President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake brother Raila Odinga, former Prime Minister. Up here it says, abridged report of the steering committee on the implementation of the building bridges to a united Kenya task force report. And as we promised that we shall be taking you through item by item so that we get a better understanding. I know because there's been a lot of politics around this draft, it has been very difficult for Kenyans to truly understand what is at stake here or what is the real content inside the BBI. So we know that what the politicians have been running with is the expanded executive, but that is not the only thing that is here in the BBI. We have a lot of things that have been mentioned that the BBI has captured from Kenyans. It has to do with corruption, devolution, safety, and a lot of. So we shall be looking at this for the interest and to ensure that we all get the right information and what truly is captured in this BBI report. So some public service here. All right, you're welcome. Okay, so they're saying a majority of Kenyans supported the adoption of a hybrid between the presidential and parliamentary system. So they're saying even after going back and hearing people's, what Kenyans really want, they said we are in support of the parliamentary and the presidential system, that we have a hybrid constitution as it is right now. But there has been arguments, especially in the wake of the revenue sharing formula that really Senate almost held all of us at a ransom as a country because they could not agree on moving forward, and the part they play there is very important. So at some point, even people decided, do we even really need Senate? And we've been seeing a lot of corruption happening even in the counties, and we know the key function of Senate is to oversight, and there has been arguments that Senate has failed in this regard in carrying out their responsibilities, and now more so that now we have more money being channeled to the counties. 35% of the national budget will be given to the counties. So we might want a little bit more of a real oversight from Senate. But even with what we had, a Senate has been seen to be very laxed when it comes to its key role or key mandate there. And there has been arguments: do we even need this Senate, and what is its role in this in our parliament today? So, but Kenyans are saying, okay, we love the parliamentary and the presidential system, the hybrid system. Professor.
Miriam, we need this kind of arrangements. Reasons being, Miriam, that our leaders must be answerable to the people of Kenya. You know, as per the current constitution, that the president is the head of state and the head of government. And Miriam, suppose is in state house sleeping, will you know? Are you able to know what he's doing? You don't get access to state house to know what the president is doing. He doesn't come to his office at Arambe house regularly. But when we will have a prime minister who is head of government, he is in the parliament, You will know where he is. He can be asked some question, and some of the policies his government is taking place. What a beautiful thing, Miriam. This is something, this is very progressive. And even the two deputies, the deputy prime minister, they will be in parliament. These are elected representatives of the people. So they will have the interest of the people. And Miriam, in any event, they seem not to be working, they can be impeached in the parliament, Miriam. So this is a good thing. And the current arrangement, you have been seeing that the cabinet secretaries, Miriam, wherever they are required to come to the house, they will say, oh, we are somewhere, we are working, we are attending this. So we find that the members of parliament of the people of Kenya are not getting the answers as they require and when they are needed. But with the new arrangements, Miriam, I know there will be a day in the parliament. It used to be a Wednesday or Thursday, if I can remember, in the old system. So you are there to answer questions. You are a member of parliament from your respective constituencies, will be able to ask questions and they will get an answer. And if the answer is not coming forthwith, the minister in charge and the prime minister will be able to give the direction. Mm-hmm. Miriam, the other arrangements, the coming, we have not reached the office
we are not there yet. I was just looking.
What I want to say that Miriam here is that this is a good thing for the president to share power, so that he does not become an imperial president as some of the propagandas which are being peddled around.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is another way, Miriam, of sharing power. The president sharing power with other leaders so that to take Kenya forward.
All right. Thank you. And before we get to the expanded executive, Daniel, the Kenyans, a majority of Kenyans supported the adoption of a hybrid between the presidential and parliamentary system, which is what we have now. So Kenyans are saying we love it and we want to continue with this system. We know it was adopted, in the 2010 promulgated constitution there. But there has been a section of that people have been complaining about, and that is the Senate. And it's been confusing about their role. We know their key mandate, there's oversight. But looking at what has been happening in our counties, it appears the Senate has been sleeping on the job. That is according to a lot of Kenyans you talk to and their perception. So do you think we really still need Senate there, judging from how they've been performing? And also, do you think they've been doing a good job in oversight? And the Kenyans supporting this hybrid system. What's your opinion?
Thank you, Miriam. And of course, when you look at various reports in regards to corruption and oversight from the counties, you will have a very clear indication that perhaps our senators have been sleeping on the job. A majority of them owing to the fact that most counties have been bedeviled by rampant corruption cases ranging from billions of shillings to public money which has been lost. So that really raises the question of whether the Senate and respective senators have been up to the task of protecting the public coffers in the county, which is among their key mandates. And I think on that one, they have miserably failed. And also, there was the contentious issue of the Senate being able to derive the formula, to pass and implement and bring to life the revenue allocation formula, which had been given out by the Commission for Revenue Allocation. And that stalemate really brought up a very almost a very ugly constitutional crisis. And I think in the BBI report, having read it quite comprehensively, there are measures which have been put there to ensure that whenever we have such kind of scenario, we have provisions which will ensure that the counties do not stagnate in terms of receiving their revenues, and they'll continue to use an alternative formula which will enable them to move forward as the government and the various stakeholders try to look on things and just get the way forward. And another issue also, Miriam, when you look at the hybrid system that Professor Jared Onyari has spoken about, I think it is a good issue in that the executive becomes answerable to the people of Kenya, because once these the Prime Minister and the deputies are in Parliament, with the Prime Minister as the leader of the government business in the House, he will be answerable to the members of Parliament who will be bringing the grievances and views from the constituents to the government. And also, a while back, the current member of Parliament of Dalangi, Raphael Wanjala, I saw him talking about the goodness of selecting some of the cabinet ministers from the legislator, the Parliament, which is something good, because I believe for someone who has served as an MP, he is very, very alive and sound to the tribulation that the common mwananchi faces on the ground, because as a parliamentarian, they engage with the people on the daily basis on the most basic of the problems that they are faced with at the grassroots level. And therefore, if we can have a cabinet minister who has been a member of parliament or who has been elected in such a capacity, then I believe these are people who will quite auspiciously understand the problems that faces the people of Kenya, and they will be able to have the right panacea to address these problems quite efficiently and quite directly. So I think a hybrid system of government between parliamentary and a presidential system is what Kenyans need to be able to bridge the gap of leadership deficiency that we are currently facing with this dispensation, Miriam. Mm-hmm. So to me, that is what we need. And also the recommendations that have been given out there by the BBI in regards to Senate and the BBI report and on matters of revenue allocation to the counties will be able also to take us forward as a nation in terms of agreeing and having a congruent position on matters of revenue in the counties, and making sure that we have a prudent, transparent, and quite equitable sharing of resources at the end of the day.
All right. Thank you so much. And as we speak, something else that caught my attention. Uganda's opposition candidate there, Bobi Wine, or Robert Kyagulanyi, has just presented his papers so that he could be cleared to start his formal campaigns there in Uganda. President Museveni did that yesterday, and today Bobi Wine seems to have been cleared by the Ugandan Electoral Commission. That is just a by the way, but I'm just trying to tell our viewers that at 3 p.m. I'll be coming here with the latest on that, and also other news making headlines across Africa. So in case you're wondering, we're not doing African stories, no, we shall. It's only that this BBI is a matter of national interest, and it's a very important conversation for Kenya and for Kenyans. So we must continue to have it and enlighten our people. But for the rest of our viewers, at 3 p.m. Of course, I'm not saying you stop watching. Continue watching. Emmanuel Malual, I know you're watching from South Sudan. But at 3 p.m. we shall have news from across the continent. But thank you so much for watching, and continue to watch. So now let's just get into the heart of the matter here. And the heart of the matter is, according to the I'm not saying according to the BBI, but what you've seen being a bone of contention, and that is the expanded executive that has really caused a lot of political hullabaloo in the country. So let's see exactly what the BBI says about this matter, just as we look at, the divisive elections, and as we look at it point by point, so that we're able to exhaust and understand really what is contained in this BBI report. They supported, that is Kenyans, they supported the BBI report's recommendation for an inclusive national executive comprising a president, a deputy president, prime minister, and 2 deputy prime ministers. Stakeholders agreed with the BBI report's recommendation that the president appoint an MP from the largest party or a coalition in the National Assembly to be prime minister. They also wanted the roles and functions of the prime minister to be clearly defined so as not to create 2 conflicting centers of power similar to the power-sharing model of 2008 coalition government. Well, that was sort of an emergency government that was constituted, but now what BBI is saying is we need to have a very clear, defined responsibilities on each office so that there will not be a conflict and they will not look like we have 2 centers of power. Remember, the president, even according to the BBI, will still remain the head of state and the president of the Republic of Kenya. And apart from creation of the Prime Minister post, Kenyans supported the establishment of the office of Leader of Opposition with a shadow cabinet, which I think we used to have before we promulgated the constitution there in 2010. I think the opposition used to have a shadow cabinet, if I can remember very well. I think yes. But the BBI, Kenyans, or the people who submitted this report and the stakeholders, we seem to have learned from that coalition government between former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, which that is why we're calling him a prime minister, former, because that is when they formed, they had to create that office for him to accommodate and also to salvage the country from where we were at that time. And we see the ghost of ICC still haunting us. And so they seems to have learned a lesson according to how that government was formed, and we saw the tag of war and the pulling and pushing in the two. What Raila thought we were going to be equal partners here, but apparently that was not to be, and there was a lot of it didn't work very well. For a moment it worked to bring some peace and sanity in the country, but for the running of the country, that did not serve us very well, Professor. But the BBI seems to have learned from that, and now they want to be very clear, on the roles.
Thank you, Miriam, for that question. What happened in the Grand Coalition government was a misconception. Mm-hmm. Still, the president was the head of government, mm-hmm. and was the head of state. Mm-hmm. But some of the powers
yes.
delegated to the principal, mm-hmm. who was the prime minister.
Okay.
And because of the thinking, because there was
of how things were at that time. Yes.
The report that said we cannot be able to understand you cannot be able to tell who won the elections.
Mm-hmm. So we are equal.
But what we want this arrangement, Miriam,
yes.
that we want it to be spelled very clear what the president can do, what the prime minister can do, who is the head of state, who is the head of the government. This is exactly what we want, so that we don't have quarreling every other day. And Miriam, we have had very difficult times, mm-hmm. since 2013 up to this point in time and up to 2022. You have what the leader for the opposition outside the parliament. He doesn't have an office. He doesn't have the secretariat. How do you check the government? How do you check the government? We have realized our mistake, and error is human. We want to correct here. And Miriam, if we have got the Minister for Finance, who checks him and said that this is what you said, this is what you have done. So Miriam, this is something very beautiful, because even the opposition will be having the shadow cabinet equal to those who are in the government, and equal to those shadow cabinet should be facilitated, so that there is checks and balances, Miriam. So this is very clear, and history is good because we learn, and that's why we are saying that, Miriam, that we should not make the same mistake which happened in 2008, 2012. Mm-hmm. But you must admit that if there is an era which we had remarkable development in this country, it was during that era. Mm-hmm. Some of the projects, Miriam, which are being implemented up to now, mm-hmm. the super highways, the standard gauge, Miriam, all of them came as a result of what? Of the coalition government. Mm-hmm. So these are good arrangements. The leader for the opposition will be able to check the government, and the prime minister, the deputy prime minister will be answerable to the people of Kenya. That's what makes me happy, Miriam, that they will be asked the question and they will answer. And like now, where do you get the president to ask him the question? And they see obliged to answer you, even if you ask. You will only demonstrate, make noise, picket, and that's all. Mm-hmm. But if he started by the grace of God, he can implement. But this one, he will be able to answer in the floor of the House. Mm-hmm. And even, Miriam, there was a question you did say about the Senate. The problem in this country, Miriam, we sometimes don't want to do comparative analysis of what's happening in other countries. Then the members of the National Assembly swallow their bride. Do they want to be senators or do they want to be members of the National Assembly? So that we make the Senate, the upper house, like other jurisdictions around the world. But here is the case, members of parliament want to have the powers which belong to the Senate. So make a decision. Do you want to be a senator? You become an upper house so that you can be able to check the lower house. This is how the checks and balances will be. And sometimes, Miriam, we sometimes become very unfair even to the Senate. They have done remarkably very well. And in fact, we have got good, experienced readers and brains in the Senate. What we saw in the revenue formula, Miriam, it was politics which was going on, and we were working under a authority foundation. But as we know now, the formula has been passed. The BBI is trying to address it. So, but I pray that they make the Senate a upper house, and you will see the difference. They can be able to check the National Assembly, and even veto some of the bills. See, the other days, 23 bills were nullified by the High Court, yes, being declared unconstitutional. So, Miriam, we have got an opportunity, Miriam, to do things right. So, on this is beautiful, Miriam.
Yes, thank you. And it's good that you brought up that issue of about 23 or 25 bills that were nullified by the court because Parliament passed them without taking them to the Senate. And one of them, the formation of something around Huduma number and other important bills that were passed in Parliament, but without the involvement of Senate, and so it was nullified. So the power struggles there between the Parliament and Senate. We need more laws to just outline the mandate of these two houses, so that is there a place where perhaps the law is a bit ambiguous in terms of their responsibility? Because from my understanding, the law is very clear on the responsibility of Parliament and the responsibility of Senate. So if Parliament knows very well that according to the Kenyan law, you have to take these bills to Senate, so that that is the process, but Parliament just goes ahead and passes these bills.
Impunity that work, and this is what we want to cure.
So Senate necessarily, Professor, according to you, has no problem. It is Parliament that they do not understand what they want. Do they want to be in Parliament, which is the lower house, or they want to go to the upper house? So you're asking them to make up their minds on what exactly they want.
Yes, and also Miriam, on the same conversation, just the other day I was sharing with a very good friend of mine about the recommendation of the BBI. And one thing he was telling me that, look at this. When you look at the decisions which are being made by the Senate, it's very difficult for interference really to sail through the Senate than it is for it to be interfered within the walls of the Parliament. And that he gave a reason because we have so many parliamentarians in that house. So it is even easier to be able to bribe the parliamentarians and able to twist some of those laws that are passed through the Parliament. But in the Senate, you see that when a bill is brought before the floor of the Senate, there are very few individuals who can have a very, very firm stand on a particular matter and be able to give a clear direction on it without being subject to any kind of interference or maybe bribery or kind of being cajoled by the outside forces. So to me, I agree with what the professor is saying, that the Senate should be empowered and be made to be the upper house so that he can also be able to oversee some of these motions that are passed by the Parliament of the day. And we avoid such wastage of public resources. Imagine how much money was spent on those more than 23 bills that were annulled by the High Court. So for us to move forward, we need to have clear guidelines and we need to empower the system so that such.
All right, we apologize for that. Karanja, if you can hear us, please. Okay, all right. All right.
Okay.
Okay, Karanja, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us there.
Yeah, today is like the day of technical errors because a lot is happening.
And I've had a few noises from the background. I hope they're discussing the BBI. And so we are looking at, and welcome to the show, Karanja, by the way. And so,
Well, thank you.
all right, so right now we're looking at the answer to Kenya's divisive elections, and we know this is captured in the BBI under divisive elections. So we're still on the first paragraph there, and we have been looking at, we looked at the issue of us versus them and how the BBI wants to cure that, and the winner-take-all system, which has resulted in a very divisive, country and has made our elections to be quite divisive there. And so now we are in the executive, and we're looking at how this will work, and it outlines there that they also wanted the roles and functions of the Prime Minister to be clearly defined. I think we've talked about that. And apart from the creation of the Prime Minister post, Kenya supported the establishment of the Office of Leader of Opposition with the Shadow Cabinet. I think also we've looked at that. I don't know if you were listening, and what is your opinion on that, so that we can move along.
Okay, thank you very much, Miriam. And I want to agree with Wasonga because I found him talking about that issue. And one thing that the BBI is doing, it is going to ease the tension that we have in our general election, where it seems to be a dual-die kind of a scenario. But when this BBI will come in place, we will ensure that we have an election that will not be a dual-die kind of contested election. And that is kind of a very good move, because it will ensure that when we go to that election, people will start selling their manifestos, persevere to what they do now of tribal and ethnic kind of groupings that are quite divisive when it comes to that matter. And in the creation of a Prime Minister, this will ensure that we have inclusivity that we have been looking for quite a period of time, because now we have more tribes coming into the bargaining table, and that is the helm of the leadership at that higher level. And also the office of the opposition leader will ensure that the person who loses in that election will not go out there to mobilize his troops to go against the government, but they will have an office where they can work from and ensure that they do the oversight role without that kind of relying on the masses of the government of the day. And that will ensure that even if they lose the election, they will be able to wait for another term of 5 years so that they can go out there and sell the manifesto to the supporters. And that is quite easy, because we understand what happened in 2017. It was because then the opposition leader Raila Odinga had nowhere to go, and that the best option he had is to go to the streets. And we know another thing that the BBI is trying to bring is a electioneering body that is quite credible and verifiable. And yesterday we were talking of the IBC going to oversee what is happening in United States. And we want them to come and implement kind of things that we are seeing happening there, so that we have a credible election that will see that the loser will not have to go even if we go to the court, we'll go there and justice will be delivered. And at least people, even the public domain, will see that justice was delivered. And that is quite a thing, because you understand, all these oppositions that we have, even what happened in 2017, where the former Prime Minister was going to the street and so on, was quite because of the unfair elections. So if we sort this issue of a rigged election, of all these malpractices in our electioneering process, then we'll be quite sure that even if you lose an election, that will be the will of the people. And we want to ensure that the will of the people is reflected in all these happenings. Therefore, I understand that will be a good move, and I will avoid these divisive elections, because, as I said earlier, we'll have now leaders selling their manifestos and agenda against what they are doing today, dividing Kenyans along their ethnic-based or tribes-based kind of agendas.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you. And the rest, with regard to representation, the task force noted that whatever form that reforms take, they should be in line with the following principles. And they're saying the people's choice, including in party primaries and nominations, shall be upheld through fair, free and transparent elections, ensure each Kenyan vote has the same status. I think all that, and also parties should be compelled through to meet the gender rule and other constitutional measures. So that, I think we already have that. So there's something here that is quite interesting, and just in the divisive elections, that is what we're looking at today. So during validation, stakeholders cited the fast past the post system as a leading cause of the highly divisive elections. As it's Daniel Wasonga, can you remind us what the fast past the post means as before we go further?
Yes, I remember we had that discussion here, and my friend Councillor Kidi Mwaga was quite elaborate on it. And having also read the BBI report on the past the post basis, is where when we have two people running for an electoral post, let's say Professor Jared Onyari is running against Javan Karanja, and in that race, Professor is able to garner 10,500 votes. And Javan comes second with 10,459. So you realize that Professor has only beaten Javan with a single vote. But because he has come first and with a difference of one vote, Professor becomes the MP and Javan is locked out with all that support base that he has of 10,459 supporters. So that is what we mean by fast past the post basis. But whatever multiple representation that is recommended in the BBI, you see that we have very
Daniel,
big
I just wanted that so that we continue. Yes. sorry, I've cut you short.
Yes.
But I just wanted our viewers understand that definition so that I can continue with this part. But I know you hold your thought because we are coming there. All right. Thank you. But thank you for reminding us. The definition of the fast past the post. So during the validation, stakeholders cited the fast past the post system as a leading cause of the highly divisive elections, and robust discussions were held regarding various submissions in favor of proportional representation system. So this is where I find it very interesting, because when you think about proportional representation, South Africa will come to mind because that's what they do there. And there were, however, mixed views among experts responding to the BBI report and to stakeholders' views on whether to A, sustain the status quo as our electoral process is, and B, adopt a pure proportional representation system, or C, adopt a mixed member proportional representation system for election of MPs in the National Assembly that will also replace the current nominated seats while taking into account the 2/3 gender rule and the constitutional requirement that electoral boundaries should progressively work towards ensuring that the number of 8th, because we covered, they voted, and after you vote, you just go your way. You vote for your member of parliament, and then the ruling, the party with the majority in parliament will choose the person they want to be a president. So that's why perhaps South Africa does not have a very violent or very divisive electoral, system. Of course, the politics are quite at high octane, and you think about people like Malema and other issues, that the country is dealing with. But when it comes to the electoral process, actually, it has never been a matter of do and die like we see here in our country. So, it's interesting that some submissions were in favor of a proportional representation. Maybe, Daniel, you can complete your thought as you look at that, and then Professor will come in.
Yes. Maybe just having read the BBI report and I've gotten maybe some points on how they propose it to work. They were proposing that we have a scenario like you just talked about South Africa, where instead of voting for individuals, you vote for a political party, and they will base on how many votes a certain political party was able to garner, and then the political party within its structures, it will be able to sit down and decide and come up with candidates to fill such a particular position based on the number of votes that they are able to garner in a particular jurisdiction. And also another thing they talked about was of multiple representation, where they ensure that perhaps constituencies like Juja, which has almost a very big number of residents, has multiple members of parliament who represent various sections of the constituency, and these members of parliament are elected under the same banner. So that makes sure that perhaps we have each and every area of our country which has a vast number of population feeling equally represented like any other smaller constituencies that we have. So I think to me that is our best way, and to make sure that let's say like an area like Juja, where maybe an MP will come from a very far end of the constituency, and once they are elected, maybe a certain group of people from the other far end, they feel like they will not be able to feel they are represented in the constituency or in parliament. They'll be brought to the table by another member of parliament who will come, a multiple member of parliament who will come also to represent the constituency. And also there's some proposal in the BBI that whichever benefits or whichever revenue or maybe allocation of the national resources that a person from a privileged constituency gets should not be 3 times bigger than that of the constituency which is deemed to be the least favored in parliament in revenue allocation. So it makes sure that it brings Kenyans at par in terms of sharing resources and also shared prosperity. So that will also help to solve the question of divisive elections, since each and every one of us will feel as to be represented and be part of and parcel of the government of the day and be able to enjoy the national cake from wherever they are without necessarily having their man at the table.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Daniel. Professor, proportional representation system that works very well for a country like South Africa is one of those countries, you never hear of anything to do with post-election violence. Cape Town is named one of the most maybe unsafe cities in the world, but they're not. South Africa as a whole is not known to have gone through post-election violence since they started their, democracy there after the apartheid. And sometimes, especially during the formation of our constitution, I'm sure experts even traveled across the world to, benchmark and look at some other systems and how it worked. I don't know why nobody ever thought that South Africa would be a good model to go look and see. And maybe, I don't know if that is what Kenyans will be interested in, but what are your thoughts about this? Of course, from what I'm reading here, this proposal received a lot of mixed views. That is in here. Professor, what do you make of this?
Miriam, we are discussing on divisive elections, and we are trying to find a cure, a formula on how we have to deal with this. Mm-hmm. Miriam, when you are sick, and you have visited all the hospitals, even if someone comes from the bush and he tells you try this, for heaven's sake you will try, because you want to be well. In approaching this section, Miriam, and they say that if it is working, you need to fix it. So what do we need to ask our system? Is it working now? No, we need to fix it. That's when they talk about the status quo. Miriam, see where we have come from. The other day, what the Chief Justice did, he put us knocked us below the belt. And in fact, as by Eastern Divisive opinion, Miriam, thank God that the BBI has come and they has taken much of the division, the attention, and that's how Kenyans behave. You give them a new idea, they forget what they were pursuing. He advised the president to dissolve parliament, Miriam. Mm-hmm. So it means, Miriam, the current status quo, it is not working because we have not attained 2/3 majority, gender rule, mm-hmm. as required by the constitution. Miriam, when you want to succeed in life, even how Japan developed, you have to put much money on research and development. If you want to take your country forward, any country which puts more money on research and development, they go far. What the Japanese did, they sponsored their young people to go to the West and see how things are being done. Instead of hoping to go for research, they send their people to go and see how things are done.
And bring that knowledge home.
And bring that knowledge and implement. And that's why sometimes you can see a Toyota and you may think that it's a Mercedes-Benz.
And they bettered that the knowledge they got, they made it better.
So what I'm trying to say, if mixed proportion reducing leaders in South Africa, it is working. Why don't we try it, Miriam? But one of the things, Miriam, I'm not happy on this section, Miriam. I don't see the need for them to remove the nominated member persons, Miriam. Like people who are physically challenged, Miriam. Can they really mount a serious campaign? Can they really mount a serious campaign?
It will be
they cannot. So these people should be protected by nomination. And I hope they must have dealt in Naivasha. 2, Miriam, we may erect that parliament. I want to tell you where the nomination comes in. And we may lack the kind of brain or expertise that we may require. Let's say if they have elected and maybe they don't have a researcher, they don't have a doctor, or someone from that kind of it. There is need for us to tap those resources to assist them on areas of as technocrats. When he stands, he is speaking like an authority. So in this kind of area, Miriam, it has to be looked at. Miriam, like when it comes to workers issues, civil, how do we allow workers? Do they go understand? So this must be a special constituencies that they must have someone, not to go through a political party, Miriam, but to go there to articulate issues to do with workers. So on this kind of nomination, yes, they have to revisit and see what can be done. And I hope other Kenyans have identified the gaps and can be able to be done. So Miriam, and again, when it comes to third gender rule I am also that we must have these mixed constituencies so that you don't just nominate because we are just nominating you because you are Miriam because of this gender. Let us have this kind of special constituencies whereby you can also go and compete. Miriam, sometimes I become uncomfortable when I see the senators who are very brilliant ladies, that Miriam, that they don't have a vote. And your work there is to make quorum and to comply with the constitution that you are agenda. No, Miriam. Let us identify these special constituencies. Let you be elected. Let you know that you are answer to the people. And Miriam, it will make you very decent. That's how I submit. We cannot have this kind of number to make it two-third gender rule. So that, Miriam, we just award people for the sake of awarding. No. Let us create the special constituencies.
Yes.
Let them just go and fight it out. And I'm sure I was listening to some of the ladies members of parliament. They said, wakati si wauka, tuende huko nyumbani pia sisi tungangane. And I look, Miriam, let us try on this. And if it doesn't work, there's no harm in trying. And people who succeeded, Miriam, in life are those people who tried.
Yes.
If you do not try, you will start regretting how I wish I had tried. So, Miriam, that's what I have to submit on this point.
All right, very well. And one of our viewers here, and we've had him before here on the panel. Thank you, Meshach Odede, for joining us this morning. And you're saying, Miriam, BBI is not a silver bullet, but it is enhancing and helping us to improve what we already have in our constitution. Even Americans have some things they have been dealing with till now. Or Americans have a lot they're dealing with, and today they're going to the election, and that is something also that I've been following. I don't know what interest I have there, but I've been watching nevertheless, and I'm really interested to see.
No, Miriam, America is a superpower, is a bigger brother.
It calls and we all catch a cold.
Let me tell you that if America could not be there, we would have been chaotic. There are some boys who can misbehave. You know that.
All right, very well.
Yes, and actually, Miriam, for the very first time, we are having businesses closing down. And
I saw them reinforcing their shops and all that. But we shall have that conversation in the afternoon. I don't want us to deviate away too much from the BBI because I want to bring Javan in. And Javan, I don't know, what is your opinion on this proportional representation system? And that is, according to the BBI here, says that when this submission was being made, it was met with a bit of mixed views. It was not a very welcome. Do you think Kenyans we are for the status quo even though it's not working for us as it is right now?
Yeah, I think there's a kind of a privilege when you feel like you voted for the president one-on-one. And I think when we talk of that proportional, I think it might be a good thing, especially in easing these tribal tensions that we have in this nation. Because at the end of the day, the people will not have to vote for their president like a one-on-one vote, but through their representative, and that will be quite easing this kind of violence that we have. Because at the end of the day, people will be more concerned on having a good mind voted as the members of parliament or senate in that case. And that will even ensure that we have strong political parties. Like when you give that scenario of South Africa, I thought of the ANC. The ANC is a very strong party. And the people now start having the trust in their political parties vis in an individual. And that is quite a good thing. But even if when look at the US, they have two strong parties, that is the Democratic and the Republican. And you find these people, some of them vote, they don't vote particularly for those candidates, but they vote for what that party stands for. And if we got that kind of a proportional representation, we'll be moving from these kind of political parties that are owned by individuals, and we start having political parties that are founded on a kind of ideological and manifestos ideological parties. With what we have now that are individual-owned kind of entities, and that is be a great move into a democratic space. Because now, at the end of the day, people now will start voting for political parties because they know if you vote this party and this candidate, then who determine the kind of president that we have in future, and that will be a very good move. But I don't think Kenyans will agree on that. I don't feel like we are there yet, but maybe when we continue working on this kind of amendments, then in future we'll achieve it progressively, because not something that we can achieve in one day and all one day. Because even you see in that committee, they are talking of mixed feeling. Therefore, it's like Kenyans who are of that views and others who are disagreeing. I think as we move on, we should improve on it. But I don't feel like we are yet there. But I think in the near future, when we're going for another constitutional amendment, then we can input such kind of thing. But I think it's a very good move now. And let's try working on it progressively so that we achieve that kind of a thing, so that we have strong parties and individuals who now start focusing on manifestos and ideological that will ensure that we empower our people.
All right, thank you. And continuing with that, the BBI draft says that implementing multi-member constituencies, and by the way, Meshach noted, I will pass that message. Implementing multi-member constituencies allows Kenya to retain constituencies which they are attached to and direct link to their representatives. It is noteworthy that elected officials with a geographic base, that is a constituency, retain greater influence than their nominated counterparts, as Professor there you have said. For the sake of equality and representation, it may be best that every elected official be attached to a specific area. Thus, the appeal of the multi-member constituency. Sasa haukai hapo kama flower girl too. You know, like you have a say, Professor Sindio. And then we go to the other part. I'm not saying that's what they are, because I remember Amelia Odhiambo coming out. I think that time she was a nominated member of parliament, and I should not like the way nominated members are sometimes, you know, because as you, Professor, you said there, people don't regard you as, because you're not representing anybody. So they're saying, what are you telling us? You know, I have people who elected me here, so they feel we are not equal like that. Yeah, so I understand that. And now the BBI is seeking to address that. So on recruitment of IEBC commissioners, some Kenyans said the Constitution and IEBC Act should be amended to allow parliamentary political parties and coalitions to nominate commissioners, while others said the current expert panel model should be expanded to include either members of parliament. That's a bad idea. Hold on. But let me just continue so that maybe I understand the whole of this sentence. Either members of parliament representing parliamentary political parties and coalitions, or the political parties liaison committees. So what they're saying is they want the IEBC commissioners, current expert panel expanded, and yes, the IEBC. And also, Stakeholders demanded that the commission should review its system to ensure, among other things, transparency in hiring, timely and transparent procurement of election materials, and the security and integrity of electoral management systems, a Kenya Integrated Elections Management System, that is KIMS. And now stakeholders also urged IEBC to ensure strict enforcement of the code of conduct for candidates and parties contesting the elections. According to some sections of Kenyans, IEBC should lower nominations fee, which limit the effective and meaningful participation. Forget about the fee part, but let's just look at from where I started. And also IEBC to ensure strict enforcement of code of conduct for candidates and parties contesting the elections, because as we know right now, it is not a campaigning season, so anybody who is out there campaigning is going against the electoral laws in this country. But IEBC, what is it doing? Nothing really. So all right, we start with the recruitment of the commissioners, and it's being proposed that part of the panel be expanded and accommodate politicians there. Karanja.
Yeah, Miriam.
Mm-hmm. Oh, go ahead.
Those who don't learn from history are condemned to repeat the same mistake. But if you learn from history, you make your present your responsibility to do the right thing, and use the present to predict the future how you want it to be. This idea of parties trying to nominate their members, Miriam, it happened in 1997, IBBG, Interparliamentary Group, Interparties Parliamentary Group. And in fact, Miriam, it worked. It midwifed 1997 election, and the same thing happened in 2002 when we had a very peaceful election, Miriam. Miriam, this one is not far away from also from making people feel that they have participated. Miriam, when the current system, people see that they are not represented. This idea that if each party, and the way normally we do this one, Miriam, is the way we elect members to East African Assembly. Each party, with regards to with the strength you have, you can be able to give that kind of number of commissioners, Miriam. So that, Miriam, we try to gain trust and confidence among the political parties. Because as it is now, someone feels that their person is not there. And Miriam, that one does not act well. So what we want to do when we are bringing here parties, Miriam, is to have people agree. And even if you are going to take your person, Miriam, there, it's not going to bulldoze. It's going to meet other parties who have been who have come together and they will reform. So it is a system which has worked. We are not inventing the wheel. If it works and we did not have the problem, and the people had trust, people had confidence, because I can remember 1997, the time when we were talking Mageusi, change, and the Orengos were very, but Sasura, the MP was it for Favi, and my member of parliament then, the Red Church and both of them, I think they are right. They were able to steer this process, and they were able to bring Kenya back on its feet. So if it has worked, Miriam, let us try it, so that we can be able to have confidence and trust in the habitat of our elections.
So you're saying it is okay to have some members
it's okay, just work.
In the commission?
I know the kind of thinking that people are so much frustrated, they say that our person is not there. And this is something which we need to demystify. That every prayers have an opportunity. Miriam, even when we pray football, I know I'm not a fan of it, but the Wasonga can tell you. If they know that the referee is perceived to not to do it, or they have seen him officiate a match sometimes back, people may refuse, Miriam. And you must be accepted with all the prayers. And God, this is exactly what we want to cure here.
Yes, and if the referee does not do his job properly, I can tell you, Gor Mahia will have a problem. Karanja, before we go to Daniel, the idea of having politicians in the commission there, and when you look at the political dynamics in our country right now, are we going to be helping a problem fix, or shall we be compounding more problem in the IEBC? Karanja. Okay, Daniel.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And from my very honest opinion, I think I'll take flight from Professor's opinion. And I think even for the handshake to have happened, we were told that some of the fierce critics of both President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga were locked out of the talks. And that is what even happened when we were seeking mediation between the Prime Minister Raila Odinga back then and President Mwai Kibaki. The talks that led to the formation of the coalition government. We had some of the political players. When you read the memoirs of the late Benjamin Kappa, like William Ruto, who were locked out of the talks, so that these talks could yield some could come to fruition. So to me, I think bringing political players into our electoral body, I think it will bring some kind of very, very misconstrued interest through the political players, and it's something that will derail the gains that we must have. We are supposed to make in terms of reforming our electoral system. So I think it is quite well that we have the voices of both political parties in the electoral body, but we need not to have politicians in there. We need to have people who are patriots, people who put the interest of the country ahead of their own personal interests. And I don't think politicians will be the best people to take that position. And Professor has talked about the 1997 debacle to electoral reforms. And I think at that time, the people who were fighting for those reforms, the return of multi-party democracy, were people who had the interests of Kenyans at heart. When you look at them, the late George Anyona, James Orengo, Cardinal Timothy Njoya, and the rest of their compatriots. These were people who are fighting for a very, very fair cause of uniting the country, bringing the country and taking it away from the rails of dictatorship. And that was such was the spirit that they had at that time. But look at the current political atmosphere we have right now. We cannot even have a very sober conversation about the BBI, which is meant to bring common prosperity for the people of Kenya, simply because in everything that we do right now in this country, the politics have become more powerful than our socio-economic agenda. So it cannot go through. So if we again bring politicians at the center of our electoral system, we shall adding wood to the fire and making it quite uncontrollable in terms of political contestation and those petty fights in terms of who controls what in that particular body. So to me, I think we have to vet whoever sits at the center of the IEBC. Yes, the political parties should have a voice, but we should vet those who are mandated by the political parties to be patriots who see a bigger picture beyond their political affiliations.
And that will be a daunting task, don't you agree?
Miriam, let me just correct this. I was not saying, Daniel, that it is politician. The recommendation is parliamentary representing parliamentary political parties, coalition or political action committees. It is not politicians. And I gave a rider how East African community works. Every political party represents a name, but those names are subjected to be voted by Parliament. And what we want to do, Daniel, is on how do we return trust.
Professor, let's just get that clear. Professor, let's just get that clear. It says that we are all clear. It says that on recruitment of the IEBC commissioner, some Kenyans say the Constitution and IEBC Act should be amended to allow parliamentary political parties and coalitions to nominate commissioners, while others said the current expert panel model should be expanded to include either members of parliament representing parliamentary political parties. So there will be members of parliament there, but that was one of the two, I think, one of the two opinions or yes, that was presented there. So you are right on the other one, and I think you looked at, Daniel is looking on the other one.
With Professor now, I think that is what should be done to ensure that now we have all parties satisfied about who is at the helm of the IEBC. I think it's a good move now. We are at par.
All right, very well. I don't know if Karanja is back. Karanja. Okay, Karanja has been experiencing some signal problem today, so we apologize for that. But in conclusion, under the divisive elections, it says stakeholders also emphasized that the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties has a key role to play in promoting political participation of women and other special interest groups by enforcing compliance by the Political Parties Act. Other key recommendations include the need for the review of campaign financing laws to regulate the amount and sources of funds to be used during elections, and to introduce recall clauses to instill party discipline. So that concludes the divisive elections part here, as per the abridged report of the Steering Committee on the Implementation of the Building Bridges to a United Kenya Task Force report, in short, BBI report, the second draft there. So in conclusion, Professor and Daniel, what stood out for you that you think was captured very well under the divisive elections according to what we've been talking about here? Let's start with Daniel, and then Professor will end it for us.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. And I'll just give a very brief recap of what I understood by that. And I think once we cap that problem of the winner takes it all, where we have presidential, all the one who is the presidency and the first runners up really taken care of in the government of the day, and also the expanding of the executive, I believe we would have solved the problem to some extent. And also the issue of inclusivity in terms of the two-thirds gender rule, as well as multiple representation. That also caters for that problem of divisive elections. And last but not least, is the issue of the IEBC. We all agree that the IEBC should undergo some robust and drastic reforms prior to the referendum in mid next year, and also as we head up to the 2022 presidential general election. Rather, we need to reform our electoral system and clean it up, because it has been the bone of contention ever since, because of the bungled election that we've been having when it comes to presidential elections. So to me, I think those three stand out for me. Having an expanded executive, also ensuring that every Kenyan has a representation at any level, from constituency to ward level, and as well fixing the rot in our electoral system and body. That will be able to bring us to some kind of consensus as a nation, and ensure that our voters don't feel disfranchised by the process.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Professor, end it for us. What stood out for you, under divisive elections and the conversation we've been having?
Yeah, Miriam, on divisive elections, Miriam, this is great. It is great in the sense that the Kenyan people have a civil duty to see and say on how they want the electoral election in this country to be undertaken. Miriam, it is so nice that there is this kind of conversation. There is this kind of an engagement. Kenyans are talking and they are venting out. And Miriam, I thank BBI because it gave Kenyans an opportunity, not even to think without the outside the box. They removed the box and they have started thinking on how they want elections to be done. So what we need to do, Miriam, we are reading and we are giving more ideas on how we need to be done. At the end of the day, Miriam, the people of this country have been given an opportunity to say what they want or how the election want to be done. That's great, Miriam, giving people of Kenya. And Miriam, 47 million Kenyans, everyone has got a say. And every voice matters. And those of us, those who are engaging us on consensus, Miriam, we have got around 20 registered. Was it 19 or 20? So it means, Miriam, 27 million of Kenyans are not voters who are going to vote for this document. The point I'm trying to raise is this: every Kenyan, whether you are a registered voter or not, you are given an opportunity to represent your views. And now we are going to combine, the bill is going to be prepared for the referendum. And we have said what kind of model that we want to adopt so that we can have credible elections. Miriam, what we are trying to do, or what we are making the discussion on, we are looking for 3 words. We want our election to be free. We want our election to be fair. We want our election to be credible. Anything which moves us towards, even if it's just going there and marching and brag out that Chebukata and we pay him for the remaining days, so that this country, Kenyans, will know that their elections are sure. Even the materials, the security and integrity management is proper. This is what we are evincing, Miriam. And it will be great that Kenyans have been given an opportunity. No Kenyan will say that this is something Prof and Daniel and Miriam are discussing. We were all of us given equal opportunity. May we seize this opportunity to make Kenya great. We are doing these things for posterity. Many years when we are gone, we will be quoted. In 2020, we were having this robust discussion, just as we are quoting those men of 1997 and then those who brought my democracy in this country. I submit, Miriam.
Very well, Professor Jared Onyari, thank you so much. Right, and also Daniel Wesonga, thank you. And Javas Karanja, who had a problem with the signal there, so we missed to hear his last, opinion on the divisive elections. And Sidonio Jivandas, you're asking what is happening in Uganda. What is happening in Uganda right now is Bobby Wine, or Robert Changulanyi, has submitted his papers there he has been cleared by the Electoral Commission in Uganda so that he can start his formal campaigns tomorrow, or now he's free, he can do that. President Museveni did that yesterday. So now we're waiting to see how those campaigns, the scientific campaigns, will continue. And if you want to know more of that, let's meet here at 3 p.m. I shall be bringing you the Diaspora Dispatches, where we get to look at the news making headlines across the continent of Africa. So Sidonio Jivandas, I hope you can join me then. And also Nong Chu, you're saying greetings from Ambazonia. In Ambazonia, it had been a long silence on my part. For sure, Nong Chu, I've not seen you here for a long time, but hey, let's have this conversation at 3 p.m. here, East African time. That is about slightly over 3 hours from now. So I hope you can make a date so that we can catch up with what else is happening across the continent. This has been the People's Court. My name is Miriam Ogotu. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.